I want to welcome everyone. Our fellow scholars in different cities of China and our other colleagues from other part of outside of the country as well, and scholars from other countries who have joined us tonight. We appreciate your time. So this is part of our lecture series, and this lecture series is actually organized for us to put us on track and to brief ourselves and lecture ourselves on what we
Yes, sir.
might think some people might not know, simple things that might prevent us from making life mistake and most importantly that will make us excel in our various field. So the title of tonight's lecture series is Navigating the Research Journey. First and foremost, because my time is not much, so first and foremost, I want us to take note of this point. Of course, our scholar, our invited scholar, they are going to do justices to everything. So, as scholars, we must understand that research integrity is very, very important. Of course, if you have any questions about knowing about research integrity, research excellence, please, you can just write because this meeting will be interactive. So you can just put it in the chat box so that we can see. So we must focus on research excellence and research integrity. Make sure you don't do something that will tarnish your image, that can put some things uh, that can tint your future. Uh, because uh, what we are actually doing now is everything has prints, footprints that can impact our lives in the future. Uh, I will also talk about the cultural adaptation and cross-cultural competence. Of course, as we've come from different backgrounds and we are working together with people from different backgrounds as well. So we have to embrace cultural learning. We must know basic things like things you don't say. Some things you say it in some culture, it will be acceptable, and but in some other culture, when you say things like that, or you do some of these things, it can actually put you in trouble. So we must embrace this cultural learning. Sometimes most of us we have colleagues from different countries, Pakistan, from Asia, from Africa, from Europe, from North America, and all that. And also we have the Chinese. Or everyone has different background and culture. We must be very, very careful. Then we must, as we also go on our day-to-day activity, we must also learn to to keep our identity. Please don't let us forget our mental health. Like I've seen a post here in our group that your professor, somebody shared it recently that your professor actually has more impact on your head than your research. So your mental health, your well-being is very important because only when you have sound mind, good health, this is when you can sit down and do research and you can also make good impact. Okay, so please, while you focus on all of this, please, our mental health is very, very important. And please, don't stay in silence. Some of our brothers and our sisters are struggling in one way or the other. Some of the s- some of our people now have mental um, uh, instability that there shouldn't have been. Because there is nothing you are going through today, either in the hands of your supervisor, in your lab, or whatsoever, that at least 10 people have not gone through it. And in most cases, out of these 10, 99.9% made success out of it. So don't kill yourself because your professor doesn't reply to your message for like a month now or so. No, 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 no. When I started my PhD, I had some issue with my professor. I would be disturbed. But now, if I send him message and he doesn't, towards the end of my program, if I send him message and he doesn't respond, it's the same. If you respond, it's the same. I got used to it. Um, so please, your mental health is very, very important, and don't then I won't talk much because of my time about resourcefulness, financial management, how you manage your finance, scholarship, and all that, your funding and all that. Um, so let me just round up my talk.
So we're going to have the first part, which is the first segment on research direction, navigating research. And tonight we're going to have from the perspective of the sciences and from the perspective of the arts. The first speaker is coming from the perspective of the sciences, and his name is Dr. Nome Ejeromodogene. He is a PhD graduate from Southeast University, Nanjing. His major is in materials, physics, and chemistry. He's currently a postdoctoral fellow at Social University, Suzhou, with research interest in functional inorganic nanocomposites and stimuli-responsive hydrogels. He has authored and co-authored over 50 SCI papers with numerous citations. He received the 2021 Innovation Grant Award of Southeast University International Student. He has won several academic awards, including Nanjing Municipal Government Scholarship 2019 to 2022, Jiangsu Government Scholarship for Outstanding International Student 2021, and the Jiangsu Outstanding Postdoctoral Award 2024. So the next person's voice you are going to hear is that of Dr. Nome. Dr. Nome, over to you. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, very perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Let me try to see if I can share my screen. Okay. Let me start by saying very big thank you to this program, putting all of this together. I know it has not been very, very easy. And I also want to thank everyone who have tried to join this meeting. I know I don't have maybe very new information I'm going to share because a lot of my senior colleagues are here, so I have to be very, very careful with whatever I'm saying. Okay. Yeah, please, in case I make any mistake, don't just have mercy on me and correct me constructively. So I really want to thank the organizers for finding me worthy to give this presentation. No, I have said some things about research before, so this might not be entirely new to some of us who are on this platform. And also, this information I want to share with us is more critical to early career researchers, and I hope everyone is going to find it useful at one point or the other in their research. Okay, for tonight, we are looking on navigating the research journey. So I'll be talking about navigating research in sciences. Even though research generally is the same everywhere, that of science is not very different from humanities. It's just about our results and our discussion that differs to an extent. So quickly, I will touch on these outlines as I stated here. So we're going to run through it because of time. So the first part is about carrying out a research. And we know that research itself is a combination of two words, re and search, which means It's something we have to do continuously over and over again. I remember when I was doing my master's back in Nigeria, when I was doing my master's final defense, the professor asked me a question. He said, after I complete this research, what am I going to do moving forward? I said, this research is complete, that I'm not going to do anything, that I've gotten all the result, and that is the end. And he corrected me and said, research does not end. Research is something that you continue to do over and over again. So there are different aspects of carrying out a research. And as a researcher that every one of us is on this platform, what we do, we observe, we gather data, we look for a particular problem. Of course, we know the major idea of carrying out a research is to look for a problem and try as much as possible to provide solution to that problem. If there are no problems to solve, then there is no need for carrying out a research extensively. So what we do in research is to seek for new knowledge. We get data, we analyze data, we test our hypothesis and all the information that we get to make sure that we come up with something tangible so as to make us even much more informed. There are different types of research that we can carry out in science. Of course, we have the fundamental research, the applied research, analytical research, the descriptive research, empirical research, the qualitative and the quantitative research. These are different aspects of research that can be performed quite all right, but most importantly, in the field of science, what we do mostly is the fundamental research, applied research, and analytical research, mostly because what we need to do, we know as a scientist, we need to go to the lab, we need to get information, we need to design our research plan and try as much as possible to carry out the research. So I'm going to run through them quickly. So before you can carry out a research, of course, you need to have a research plan. And the structure of a research plan is very straightforward. It should be simple. It should have a direct language to communicate your ideas. It should be coherent with the flow of information. And also, it should be concise. And the key focus is that you should highlight the key points. Most importantly, revealing the novelty of that particular research that you are trying to carry out. Now, the importance of carrying out research is for documentation. Of course, in China and in some other part of the world, it is a requirement for graduation. For you to be recognized and famous, of course, you need to carry out a research, because just like some of my senior colleagues and myself who are giving this kind of presentation, it is because of our research output that is out there. Of course, we have been recognized to an extent in our field, so we have that authority to give some of these kind of presentation. It's necessary for your CV enrichment. Of course, if you want to find a job, you want to apply for funding and other things like that, of course, you should be notable in your field. Carrying out a research helps us to impact knowledge and give and disseminate information. When you're carrying out a research, one of the things is one of the questions they ask you is, what is your contribution to knowledge, which is very key. So we need to know about that as well, because it also helps us to enhance our knowledge dissemination portfolio. It strengthens our critical thinking. It contributes to our career advancement in either field. Even if you're in academia or you're working in the industry, all of this is very, very important, because most of our research, these days, our research always ends up in the laboratory, but we try as much as possible to extend it into the industry, where it creates a lot of industrial impact. And one of the key things that Dr. Jacob mentioned is for collaboration. So we carry out research so that we can easily collaborate. I know one of my senior colleague, Dr. Olayinka, is one of the person that I've always been preaching about collaboration. Even Dr. Elijah Odi, I've always been preaching about collaboration when they initiated the OAAD platform for researchers. So collaboration is very crucial. So in the second part, we'll look at writing a research paper. Of course, when you have prepared your research plan, your research proposal, and you have carried out your research, the ideal thing is to put the information out there so that everybody will get access to the information. And of course, for you to do that, you have to put the information concisely in a research paper that will be published for a particular publication. So the key principle for effective research writing, of course, you have to consider the clarity and precision. Your information should be precise and straightforward. The information should be logical. Most especially in the introduction, there should be a coherent and logical flow of information that you are bringing out there. Your writing should be supported by evidences. That's why when we write a research, you give information, you quote a statement and you give the necessary citation. So this citation gives evidences of what have been done. No man is an island of knowledge. Whatever we are doing, it has been done already. So what we are trying to do is to try as much as possible to remodify and modernize what has been done already. So there are different literature evidences to support every claims that we are putting out there. So it is very, very important. And most importantly, we should maintain integrity in our writing. And maintaining integrity implies you avoiding every form of plagiarism in your research paper, which is very, very important. So for the research paper, of course, it has different parts that we need to consider. We have the title, which must be very concise and catchy. We have the abstract, which will summarize your whole report in few words. We have the introduction, which should be coherent and logical. So it should carry information about your research background, your research questions, your objective, and the novelty of your work. Then we talk about the methods and the materials and methods. So you explain your research design, how you collected your data, or the instrument that you use for your analysis as well. Then you present your result, which is very key. So what we do in scientific writing, of course, we present our results in tables. You can present them in graphs. You can present them in schemes. And it is very, very important because these figures that we use to present our result makes the reports looks even much more interesting. Of course, you need to discuss this result that you have reported, which contains your key findings, and you have to compare your results with those of existing work. Now, in this part of the world, most of the time, we always try as much as possible to report our results that is much more superior to previously existing report. Yeah, that is good. But that does not mean when we have a negative result, even though it is not generally recognized or accepted, it is also important for us to report some negative result that we have as well, because it also gives information to people who will be doing the same research. Of course, we know that the number of times you fail in an experiment is the number of times that you know that that particular research is not going to work. So it is very, very important as well. Then you give the conclusion when you summarize all the key findings and give recommendation. Of course, in your research paper as well, you give room for acknowledgement for those that supported your research with funding and others. You give your declaration statement, author contribution, and ethical statements where necessary, as well as the references. So quickly, we're going to touch down on different aspects of the research paper, starting with the title. Now, for the title, we say it should be very, very concise and informative. So the title, sometimes they'll tell you your title should not be more than 22 words. So you need to keep it very simple, straightforward, and concise. For example, if you see this work that was published by Agdewante, this is a simple research title, Localized Alkaline Microenvironment Enhanced upon tip effects for efficient antibacterial application. Now, even before reading the abstract of this particular report.
Sorry, Dr. Nome, just 1 minute, please. I'm hearing somebody is saying they can't see your screen, so I have to be sure. Can we see the screen, please? Response. Is it just individual problem? Two people have indicated that they can't see the screen.
I can see.
Oh, so it's their problem. Oh, okay, continue. Thank you. So maybe their problem.
They should click on that small screen.
Okay.
The small screen. They should click on it. It's going to magnify it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Continue.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So if you see from this typical research, this title is very concise, is very straightforward. Most times the title of our research, if it is too long, it can even lead to rejection of our research paper before being during desk check-in by the journal manager. So it is very important. Sometimes they say that we should not use specific some kind of words like a study, a research, like using abbreviations. Some of these things are not important, except it is a generally accepted abbreviation that can be used. So it is very, very important for us to get a very concise title that is catchy and gives a summary. It is not the abstract, but even by mere looking at your title, you have an idea of the particular work, gives you an information of what that particular research paper is going to be used for. So as you can see from this title, this particular material, the characteristics of this material and the application, of course, have been presented in this title, showing how informative and straightforward it is. There is another title again that we could see from Advanced Functional Materials. A fluorinated covalent organic framework membranes enabled high efficiency and water resistance CO2 and N2 separation. You don't necessarily need to read the entirety of this report before you know what kind of material it is. It's a covalent organic framework material membrane. It is used for CO2 and N2 separation. Of course, it's going to be used for separation of gases. So you see the title, straightforward, concise. It is not generalized. It is specific, straight to the point about your research. So the title is very, very important. Now, when you have a very catchy title like this, then you'll be interested to want to see more information which is the abstract, which is the next part of the research paper. The abstract should have the purpose and the motivation of your research, the problem statement, the method, the key result, and the conclusion. Most times the abstract should, according to some journal regulations, it should be between 150 to 250 words. So this is very, very important. So the abstract should not the abstract is not the conclusion. So we should understand this. And it should be also logical as well. But all of this information can be summarized in 1 or 2 sentences to accumulate to give 150 to 250 words, depending on the journal guideline, which is very, very important. The next part of the research paper is the introduction. And of course, for you to have a very good introduction, it should have some key information. It should be engaging. Sometimes as reviewers, when we read some articles, for example, for myself as a reviewer, when I see an article, the first thing I look at is the pictures, the figures of the work. If the figures are beautiful, yes. If they are arranged in an ordered manner, yes. So if I find the pictures attractive and all of this, then I'll be more interested in reading the abstract. I've not even read the abstract yet. Beautiful figures shows that this person knows what they are doing, is engaging. There are enough information here. They read the abstract. The abstract is interesting. Then we'll go ahead and read the introduction. Now, when you start reading introduction, it should be engaging, carrying significant information. It should be coherent in the presentation. It should define the scope and advances in that particular research area that you're working on. It should contain the significance, the aims and objective, and most importantly, the contribution to knowledge, which is the novelty of that particular research. It's very, very key. A good introduction, of course, you talk about the methodology as well, where you talk about the materials and how you actually carried out that research. The materials is important. The step-by-step procedure to show that your research can be reproduced when done in another research lab. The design itself is very, very important. For some scientific researches, if you are carrying out a subject specific for participants, probably you are trying to analyze some scientific questionnaires and all of those things. So all these information are very, very key. Yeah, we do not really dwell much on the methodology, but it is also very, very important to show that, yes, you designed the work by yourself and the work can be reproduced. And importantly is the result and discussion section, which is also very, very, very key, because it is this result and discussion that sells your work out. Everybody wants to see the new result that you have obtained. How does your work compare with existing literature? How does it compare with previously reported works? What are the new results that you have generated from this particular research? So you report all of these, you summarize all the information together, you compare, you give relevant citations, and of course, you give a summary of the key findings in the conclusion of this particular research. So after you've gathered all this information, of course, you want to put them into writing a manuscript. So quickly, we'll talk about the manuscript preparation techniques. So when you're preparing a manuscript, of course, you have an idea of what you have done already. Now you're trying to choose a journal for your publication. Very importantly, we should beware of any form of predatory journal. So most times we want to consider journals in Scopus or in Web of Science, which are very, very important. And you also need to format your reports or your manuscript according to the journal guidelines. Sometimes we are being lazy not to look at this very salient information. For example, you submitted an article to a journal, it gets rejected. You want to submit it immediately to another journal without even reading the journal guideline. Does your work fit into the scope of that particular journal? Does it contain the necessary or the required information? Now, when you go to a particular journal website, now there are different types of article which you need to pay attention to. Now, what kind of article are you preparing? Because we have different type of manuscripts that we are writing or that we are prepared. Is it an original research? Okay, yes, it's an original research. We check all the necessary information. Is it a short communication? Is it a review? Now, as you could see from this journal, the review articles that can be submitted on this platform are only welcomed by the editor. Now, you need to find out this information. Sometimes we write review papers, and at the end of the day, we submit it to a journal that gets rejected even before passing through the first check. So we need to check this information if the journal welcomes any unsolicited reviews, or it is only by invitation only. So it is very important. It is a tasking job to do, of course, but it is important for us to seek for all of this information so that we can overcome them as challenges ahead of our publication journey. So we need to check if it is a comment we are trying to submit, or if it's an editorial, or if it is a correspondence. These are different types of articles that can be accepted and that can be published by a researcher. So you need to know the type of article you are submitting. Most times as scientists, the two types of articles we submit mostly are original research and review papers. So we need all journals accept okay, not all journals per se, because I know there are some journals that accept only reviews, but most of the journals, they accept original research. So it is very, very important. So when you find out that, you need to also check the guide for the authors before submitting your article. It is very, very important. We should not be lazy about this. All the information we need about publishing an article is on the journal platform. So you need to read about the aims and scope. Does my research work fit into the aims of this particular journal that I've selected? Because you need to have that at the back of your mind before submitting. If your article is not within the scope of that journal, of course, it is going to be rejected from the desk. And another important information in preparing a manuscript is to format the manuscript according to the journal guideline and also the referencing. This might not be a problem for some journals, but it could be a serious problem for others. So you need to read in the manuscript publication preparation guidelines. You need to see the fonts. I think most of those Springer journal, they will tell you use size 12 or size 10, double line spacing, single line spacing. All these little information, we might just overlook them, but they are very, very important. And these are most of the reasons why our articles get rejected even by the editor without going out for review. We need to check the referencing formats, and there are different referencing tools out there that we can also use to format our referencing according to the journal guideline, like Mendeley, we have Zotero, we have EndNote, different ones. So you can download and install any of these on your system. Now, there are different mistakes that we make while preparing our manuscript, and I'll just quickly run through them on how to avoid some of these mistakes. The lack of clarity and organization of our manuscript is a common mistake where we prepare manuscript without a logical structure. What we just need to do is to try to follow a particular structured format. So we need to define the logic of the manuscript. The information should be following one another. So, for example, let me say you want to give an information about Nigerians in China. Now, in the introduction, you can talk about a little bit about Nigeria. From there, you talk about some information. Then you talk about a brief about China, give general information, and go specific to your main point. But sometimes you can see that we want to talk about Nigerians in China. You will start with talking about Nigeria. Then from there, you start talking about Africa. You leave Africa, you start talking about China. No, your information has been disorganized already. So it is very, very important that we keep a coherent, structured format for our organization of our manuscript. Ignoring journal formatting and submission guidelines, which I've just mentioned, is very important to review them carefully. Poor citation practices and plagiarism, which is very, very important. So we need to improve citation to avoid all of this and reduce plagiarism to the barest minimum, which is very, very important. Weak abstract and conclusion. We have talked about abstract, so we should not write a generalized abstract or a vague abstract. Just go straight to the point and give the key findings about your research. Submitting without proofreading and editing. Sometimes we make this mistake, transferring your article from one journal to another journal. Of course, you need to check the editing, the journal guidelines. So it is very, very important. So you can also give people, your colleagues, to help you review your articles, to help you to improve all those formatting and proofreading challenges. Overlooking reviewer comments is another issue that we face sometimes. When your article have gone for review, sometimes we feel the reviewer comment does not really match the work that you have done, or probably we cannot give a point-by-point response to those or to those questions. These little things can cause rejection of our article. So we need to pay attention to address every comment that was put forward by the reviewer. Then procrastination and poor time management, which is also another issue. We need to set a writing schedule so that we can improve our time management for our research. So I'm going to talk about, this is the last thing, effective time management and research, as I round up. So to manage your time in research, you need to set clear and achievable goals. So you need, in your research, if you are doing PhD, you are doing masters, you know what you are achieving in your first year, your second year, for PhD, your third year. You need to set goals that you can achieve short-term and long-term. It's going to be very, very helpful. You need to create a research timeline for all of these tasks. After you set the goals, set the timeline that you need to achieve all of these. Then you can also create a calendar, use productive tools like the setting a calendar and to-do list so that you can be able to manage your time effectively. So of course, when you set a calendar or a reminder to say, oh, I've not done this, I've done this. This is what I need to achieve. This is the next step of my work. It's very, very important. You need to focus on high impact activities and prioritize your deadline first. Then you also need to allocate time blocks where you can do specific work. So you can set specific time for your research, specific time for your writing, specific time for your revision, to read your literature, and all of these. They are all very, very helpful. And for us to overcome procrastination, to manage our time, we need to identify what are the distractions in our day-to-day life. Are you distracted by social media, WeChat, WhatsApp, Instagram, all of these? You need to minimize all of these things that can cause you distraction. You need to allocate or work with using the Pomodoro technique, where you can work for maybe 20 minutes, 50 minutes, and you go for short breaks at interval. Then you need to break large tasks into smaller tasks, set deadlines, and you can get an accountability partner where you can talk with a colleague that will be, okay, I've done this particular work. Discuss your research with people that can motivate you, and you also need to celebrate your small wins so that you can also achieve bigger wins. And lastly, I'm going to talk about tips for us to succeed as researchers in China. This is from my own personal experience. few tips that we need to find out is to get research or review idea by following the news that is on these different journals. So sometimes you can just be reading this news and announcement in different journals to get highlights of information that you need to get new ideas on what you need to work on. Of course, as a researcher in China, you also need to read, and you keep reading, you don't stop reading. This is what we do every day. Yes, we've talked about the power of collaboration, which is very, very important. You need to listen to advice from senior colleagues, especially those of them that are in the same field like as we have here. So one of the goals of this night is to collaborate and meet researchers in your research field. Always talk about your research at every opportunity. It helped me a lot because interacting with people gives me ideas on what to do and how to improve my research. Accept criticism, regardless of whoever it's coming from, accept it and move on to the next task. Then you also need to be confident about your work and you need to understand the theory behind your work, which is very, very important. So these are things that I have tried. If there are any questions regarding to all of these, I can also use it to expand on this information that I have shared with you. Thank you so much for your attention. If there are
Thank
any
you very
questions.
much, Dr. Nome. We are so grateful. We're going to have the question and answer segment in the next segment, so you'll still be around. We would have that on the roundtable discussion. So we want to say a very big thank you. The next speaker, which is going to help the humanities and arts to get a glimpse of what navigating research is. Dr. 1 minute, I need to get something out. Dr. Mustafa Balat Sasquab, pardon my pronunciation, is currently an associate professor at Yulin University, China. He was a postdoctoral research fellow at Southwest University, China. He has presented papers at both national and international conferences. He also has published papers in both local and international journals like Cognitive Linguistics, International Journal of Multilingualism, and is also interested in applied linguistics, cognitive linguistics, cultural linguistics, and English language education. And so the next person's voice you're going to hear is that of Dr. Mustafa. He has to bring us the navigating research in the humanities or in the social sciences. Thank you very much, Dr. Mustafa. Over to you. And you can share your screen.
All right, okay. Thank you so much. Host this one. Anyway, I'm sorry. Can you make me maybe a co-host on my computer? You can see Sokwa, MB Sokwa. I'm sorry I joined with my phone and my computer. This is because at times my computer has some little issues. So I can be showing the slides through my computer and be speaking through my phone.
Dr. Odi, can you attend to that?
Yes, checking. MB Sakura, right?
Yeah.
Okay, look. Sorry. Just a moment.
Also, please kindly be reminded for participants, please fill up the registration link. It's about the building of the collaboration. Beyond just the seminars, we have some things that are coming up, like part of what we'll be discussing today are opportunities that you could actually have after your PhD. And while you're on the PhD program, there are a whole lot of opportunities. Some of us navigated the journey without knowing some things. And it's not nice allowing our brothers to come and pass through the same route. That's why we are here. So please endeavor to fill up the registration form. It's for connecting and for interacting, and we are trusting that we'll build networks from here. So Dr. Mustafa, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Ishoma. Can you see my screen?
I can see. Can we see the screen? Please indicate in the chat box.
We can see it.
All right, good. Thank you. Let me make it bold. Yeah, good. Okay, well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you for having me, and I'm very much happy to be here today to share my little view All right, just do this. Okay. Also, let me start by saying thanks to the organizers of this very session, Nigerian scholars in China. Um, the title given to me, actually, I changed it a bit. It was on social sciences. As I discussed with Dr. Aleja Odi, I feel more at home, honestly, to talk on research in arts, which is the area of my specialization, particularly literature, language, and linguistics. However, honestly, the first presenter has almost said everything that I plan to say. So, pardon me when I repeat some of the things he has mentioned earlier, but I will try my best to say that I don't repeat some of the things. After all, in the whole presentation, I have only one slide, as you can see it right now. I will talk briefly on the title of the research and then abstract and introduction, and of course, review of related literature, and then framework and methodology, which will be followed by results and findings, and of course, analysis and discussion. Then recommendations and conclusion, and references, then appendix. So to begin with the abstract, with the title, as the first speaker actually said, he has really done justice to this presentation. After all, research is a universal language. Be it you are in social science, arts, humanities, or science, we all talk about the same thing. Of course, whenever you have a title for your research work, it should be very short and simple. As they say, keep it short and simple. And then what next is abstract. Abstract mostly contains 4 to 6 fundamental things in it. Very good. What's this? Very good. So in the abstract, mostly you present the research problem and the objectives of your paper or article or research work, and then followed by the methodology you use in your research, and then the kind of findings or result you get, which will be used to give recommendations. And after that, in the structure of your research paper or even thesis sometimes, what comes is introduction, which has to do with the background of the research work. Mostly you start from the general perspective and then gradually you go down to a specific perspective. That is, you narrow it down to something that you can manage in your research. And in this case, you normally use the existing research gap that other other researchers maybe have written, have discovered, and then they leave some research gap. And of course, as one of the teachers or the former presenter said, always, whenever you finish a research, of course, that kind of research you finish will bring about another problems, which can create another research gap, which will require other people to come in and then try to fill in the research gap. And this is what makes the academia keep moving. Then after identifying this research gap or discussing about it, what next is research objectives or maybe research purpose, which in some research, depending on the kind of the research, of course, some use only research purpose or objectives, some present research questions, and some present research hypotheses. And most of these things are being presented in the introductory part of your article or thesis. And then what comes after this is then you may talk about the structure of your research. Maybe what comes, maybe literature review or chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter after the last chapter. Then after this, we have literature review, which is review of related literature. In this, mostly you as a researcher, you assess the existing works written on that particular concept which you are studying, or some other things which others have written. It could be maybe these things could be written in books could be written in journal articles, could be written in newspapers, could be written in maybe even website and others. So you take this kind of materials or works being done, you assess them. Of course, as you are assessing them, you try to see that you modify them and corner them towards your own research work. What others have said, and then what is related to your work, and what kind of criticism can you offer of what they have done, which would warrant your own work. And after discussion, the related to literature, what comes is framework. Of course, here I wrote 3 different aspects. It could be conceptual framework, or maybe theoretical framework, or even empirical framework, depending on the kind of research, especially in language or in literature or linguistics. At times, one may warrant to be using conceptual framework, or theoretical framework, or even empirical framework. There are quite a number of frameworks or models in language, literature, and linguistics. When you finish writing this, what next is methodology. Uh, of course, as we all know, methodology deals with the kind of population you have for your research, the kind of sample you have. Of course, the word population here, it could be maybe people, it could be non-people as part of your population. Then the kind of instrument you may use, maybe questionnaire, maybe interviews, maybe some surveys and others. And then the kind of method you are going to use. Is it qualitative method, or maybe quantitative method, or even mixed method, or some other methods? And then the kind of data you are going to collect. You'll mention the kind of data or the process of data collection. Are you going to use maybe random sampling technique, or maybe accidental sampling technique, or even purposive sampling technique and others? And still, this aspect of methodology deals with analysis. Uh, you have to mention the kind of analysis you are going to use. There are quite a number of analysis, but especially in literature, language, and linguistics, common ones are thematic analysis or content analysis, and some others. Maybe if we have time, we are going to talk more. Then when you finish your analysis, what comes next is the result you have from the research which you have carried out, which at times you can call it findings. Findings or results, they are just outcomes or answers of maybe some of the questions you have raised under introduction. And when you get this kind of answers, then still you may talk about analysis as some use, or maybe discussion as a former presenter has talked about it. And what does it mean by saying analysis or discussion is making interpretation, of course, scholarly interpretation or explanation of the data you have or of the result you have found. And in this case, you'll try to see that you show the implication of the result. What comes next is the recommendation from the interpretation and discussion which you have offered so far. Then from that, you are going to draw your recommendations or give your recommendations, and then you make conclusion on it. And of course, in the structure of your paper or maybe research work, you have references, which is a bibliographic list of all the cited materials in your research work. In this case, one shouldn't mention or cite or write any kind of material which has not been cited in the real text of the research work. And to some, they have supplementary information, which is appendix, and is being attached at the end of the research work or even a paper. So this is what I have as a structure of a research work in arts, particularly literature, language, and linguistics. And if you could remember what our former presenter has presented to us, you can see a little bit difference here. Of course, there is room for plus or minus in the structure. For instance, some if they use a review of related literature, they don't present theoretical or conceptual or empirical framework. They embed it inside the literature review. but some they don't talk about literature review, and then they present the conceptual framework, or maybe present theoretical framework, or maybe present empirical framework. And even in the methodology, of course, there are so many aspects. Some journals prefer to use methods or methods and materials. Some journals prefer to use methodology. Of course, there are some scholastic arguments in using all these kind of terms. And even when it comes to the aspect of analysis and discussion, some will only use discussion, some will use analysis, some will match result and analysis together. Likewise, the aspect of recommendations, some will have recommendations separate from conclusion, some would put them together, some would have only conclusion to be serving as conclusion part and also recommendation as well. Of course, this is in nutshell what I have to present. I'm sorry to be repeating maybe some of the points they raised by our former presenter. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. I wish you said thank you. Well, it's not a reputation, if you ask me, because we have research being research, but you know, there are some intricacies when it comes to arts and when it comes to science. So at least somebody in the arts would have been able to grab something to say, okay, he knows what he's going to. And somebody in science, yes, there's the philosophy of research, that research as a whole, yes, the process. But those little intricacies matter when it comes to discipline. Even in the science, there are some journals you want to write to, and you have to change their format. So, but whatever it is, we are happy to have gotten two sides of the coin. Welcome back. And I wish to say welcome to everyone. We are going to go on to our second segment for tonight. And tonight we're going to have, in the second segment, we're going to have two people give us their perspective of what it is like doing the PhD in China and still being able to put in other aspects of their life. And the first person we're going to have is Dr. Faraday. He's going to tell us about the use of social media spaces while doing your research and also using your research. He's going to take that for 10 minutes. And we're going to have Dr. Yomi, who is going to take us on the Guanxi. Remember when Dr. Jacob was saying at the opening speech, he made mention of the Guanxi. In China, there's something called the culture in your research. No matter whatever you are doing in China, if you take away Guanxi, I don't know where you are going to be, unless maybe you have a focus of leaving China after the PhD. But if you're going to remain in China after your PhD, there's something that you need to take on now for those in the early career who are just starting their PhD or master's program. You have to be conscious of Guanxi. Guanxi is all about relationship. And like I said earlier, one of the things my own supervisor told me on the PhD journey was you would always have your certificate, but you won't always have the relationship. So don't miss the moments of building the relationship, all in the name of pursuing your PhD. If you have set out for your PhD, you must get it. It's sure. But remember to pick up the things you need to pick. So Dr. Faraday, can we have you? Thank you. Dr. Faraday is actually a food chemist. He had his master's, his bachelor degrees in Nigeria. And what else? He's currently a postdoctoral research fellow at Georgia University. Over to you, Dr. Faraday.
Yeah, good evening and then good afternoon in Nigeria. So, because I'm back in Nigeria now, and my name is Falade Ebenezer, but my friends call me Sugar. And the reason why I don't want my name to be changed to Chinese, that's why I adopted that Sugar, and it's easy for every of my Chinese friend to say. Also, it is more of what I do in my own research because I work on sugar, carbohydrates, and the rest. So don't be surprised when you hear sugar. I'm not a lover. No. So now
So
back to what
sugar
I'm
is
trying to.
justified.
Thank you, my brother. So before I wanted to have a talk on making the most of your research and how to make yourself visible. What I notice about we, especially we that have decided to pursue the path of academics, especially some of us that do not have a job, or you know what I mean. Some of us we just went for masters and then we went for PhD because we got a scholarship, and then not that we were lecturer back home, or we're just pursuing that path, and many of us we do not even know what we're doing. Uh, I decided to because I'm very sure that some people they were like me, although what I want to discuss was basically on how to, make use of your research time. And I now thought back on how I lived my research life back in China during my PhD and then my postdoc. And I kind of have a kind of is a special I kind of have a retort about it that if I was given another chance, these are the things I would do to make things so smooth and easier for me. Because I won't lie, I used to be a kind of solitary person. Even back in my BSc, I remembered back then, my supervisor will tell his students during PSC. I did my BSc in Unijor. So my supervisor will tell his student to come to his house his apartment to come and discuss the research. But I will be the one not to come among all the 5 students. I will tell my supervisor exactly what you want me to do. I know what to do. Don't worry, I know what to do. Then you tell me, you this Lagos boy, are you sure you will graduate? I say, Oga, no worry. Shaping how to write. Then I will come up with my own research, do everything, and then come and give it to him. And he will be impressed, surprisingly. So, but then he still tell me that you still need to collaborate. And it's not a matter of bragging, but I still came out as the best student in the department. But later, I reflected on this part that I took, and I feel there are things that I missed along the way, things that I needed to do that I didn't do, that I didn't make use of, that I didn't make most of it. So I don't have a slide. I will tell you now, but this is a talk. I'm not a speaker. I'm just going to give you a simple talk, and then and I will make it as brief as possible. So these are the things I will consider if I was to start my PhD all over, my research journey all over again, to make it easier for me. By God's grace, after my postdoc in JNR University, I got opportunities. I got an opportunity to go back to the industry. Although before I returned back to research after my masters, I worked in First Bank and I was earning good money. I was quite comfortable, but because of my curiosity in research, and basically, let me not lie to you, because my friends, they were getting scholarship in UK, China, and the rest. I wanted to go with my friend too, and then apply for any scholarship. So I was so desperate to get any other scholarship then, and I landed this Chinese government scholarship, and I just left the banking job. And when I got to China, everything was so different for me, starting from the language, and then the way they do their things, their work ethic, there are some lab. Let me tell you, for the new PhD intakes, there are sometimes that you will have to go back to lab after 7 o'clock, and then you end at 12 or even more. I remember some of my colleagues that slept in the lab many times, but as for me, I'm a kind of person that I believe that when you manage your time properly, your whole life shouldn't be lopsided on research alone. There are enough to enjoy in this life. You only be as and I have an oral postdoc now in University of Arkansas. So he was surprised. I said, Oga, but it doesn't matter that way. That I can still, it depends on the way you build yourself. So even though my PhD was not so smooth, but then I worked on myself, collaborated, and then work on getting more papers. And at least after my PhD, I was able to be boastful. At least I have like over 15 papers, both collaborative and then like 8 first author papers. So I want to tell you that you can make the most of your research journey and still work on yourself. Number one, offer yourself as a readily available and helpful pair of hands, both in your lab and across other labs. That's number one way to make you have to be, please, this one is very important. You 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 can offer yourself as, for example, during back in the days when I did my PhD in Beijing. One of the ways that we pick up all these skills along the way is when you you do some your some analysis. I can only speak about science here. My area of research is food science. So there are some analysis that we do that will make use of some of this expensive equipment that we don't even have in any third world country or even sub-Saharan countries. For example, when you make use of all these UPL, CMS, some electron microscope like TEM, SEM, and you know how to operate on many of these things. Those are some of the skills that you pick up. And I could remember that is one of my research that I did, that I had to help out a colleague, a Chinese colleague who was also sick. He was also sick then. Then my professor told me, can I help this person do amino acid profiling? Then I did it. And lo and behold, during my interview with a professor in University of Arkansas, he asked me, she asked me that, did you do so? I saw your, she said, I saw your presentation, but I'm more particular about amino acid profiling. Did you do it? Then immediately it came to my mind that, yes, thank God. My professor told me one time to help one of my research colleagues to do it, and I told her exactly how I did it and everything. And that was one of the um, cheap points that I scored during that interview. So please make yourself readily available, collaborate, and then that way, in that way, you will even earn more papers. So another way is to take your Chinese lesson seriously. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yes.
You see, that is one of the things I'm talking about. The network is not taking me serious. So you have to bear with me. So another point is to take your Chinese lessons seriously. We are in China. And I want to make you understand today that fluency in more than one language is a skill, whether you like it or not. Fluency in more than one language. And when you talk about languages, major languages in the world, if you pick English, I don't know about any other language, you pick English, Spanish, there's no way you will not pick Chinese because it's spoken by majority of many people. And besides that, even China is expanding. I could remember many times during the COVID when I was stuck in Nigeria, I got many job offers from Chinese investors telling me to come and translate for them, just to translate, and they're going to pay me enough money. Although that doesn't exactly, go with my area of specialization, but nonetheless, I studied food, and these are Chinese investors in food industry that feel that since I studied in China, I should be able to speak and help them translate. So, and besides that, there is no way. I think you should take your just take your Chinese lessons seriously, and even if it is podcast or anything that can help you to improve your Chinese. And I feel that because during my time, it's only 3 months. We were given 3 months to study Chinese. Then it was not a mandatory. It was not compulsory to write HSK. I think HSK 3 or 4 then, because you can just come to China, study Chinese for 3 months just for you to understand how to basic Chinese, how to buy things in the supermarket and Chandian and all those things. Just that's all. But later, I now find out that these are important skills. If you want to even have a career prospect in China, you will need to learn Chinese and be able to speak Chinese. I remember there was this job that I got in China, and I was in a pharmaceutical company. So I got an offer to be the director of their research cultivation sector, the R&D sector. So, and this is a very lucrative offer. And I just feel that how am I going to communicate? Because when they told me that I will be controlling, I will have like 20 Chinese under me that will be working with me in the research and the R&D lab. So I was I was surprised, and I told them, do I need to speak Chinese? They said, of course. They don't understand any other thing. You will need to improve on your Chinese. So I believe that it is an opportunity for you to learn that Chinese. I remember during my interview with a professor where I got my postdoc in University of Arkansas now. So she asked me to present something that to present my proposal, what I'll be doing in her lab if I should come over to her lab. And lo and behold, I started thinking of what exactly can I do to grab this woman's attention, because she told me that she had over 30 people that has already presented before me. And I come up with something that has to do with, because I worked on protein, then I come up with something that has to do with integrating AI and machine learning on how to predict the different structures and functionality of peptides. And that was the only thing that grabbed her attention. And straight up, she picked me as the best candidate for her job, for that particular position. So
Thank you.
you see, something that is, because this.
Now, let me start with this. We just finished, what is the name of this festival? Mid-Autumn Festival in China. If I may ask us, how many of us sent messages to maybe our professors or our supervisors? How many of us sent messages to maybe some of the senior researchers in our groups, in our research groups? How many of us sent messages just to say, hello, I wish you a so successful, year ahead as you celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival. I wish you good and stuffs like that, In this place, it may look as if maybe they're minor, maybe it's, maybe from where we are coming from. But these are the things that we can use to oil a relationship here in China. It is very important. And let me tell us something very funny. When I was coming to China, I accidentally asked one of my senior friends, compared me actually to my professor. Some of us came to research environment that we never had any idea of what they do here, and we got here. It's like we are going to school. It's like we are, we are entirely new students. Like we are just attending university. All right. Either we like it or not, we might or we may at one point or the other need the help or assistance of some of these guys. Some of them, they might not even be able to express themselves in English. Okay. But the way, we manage some of these relationships go a long way. It creates an impression. All right. Currently, I work as a research and teaching associate in a university. And take note of something. One of the guys that sent me a message that asked me, hey, you finished your program. Or I heard you are rounding off your program. Have you gotten something? This is a guy that he doesn't talk to me in the lab. He doesn't talk to me. All right. But when I go around to give some of these little things, of course, I don't, I don't exempt anyone. Okay. I just share it around. Those things create impression. I never even knew he was observing some of these things. Okay. But this guy doesn't talk to me. Sometimes I greet him. He doesn't respond. There's another guy also in my lab that sent me the link. Sent me a direct message from a professor. The guy asked me, he said, hey, he said, are you familiar with so and so and so area of research? I was like, he said, one of the professors in our department said there is an opening in Saudi Arabia. Okay, that if you can do it, let me know so that I can talk to him. That was how he linked me up with a professor, and the professor was like, hey, so you are from Nigeria, blah, blah, blah. He said, hey, he said, so what, send me your CV. I sent my CV to him. He said, impressive. He said, he sent it to those that needed it. But those guys insisted, all right, they insisted that they need, of course, I can do that. I have it in my research, I have it in my research record in the past, some of my research records profile, some of my published works, but they said they need, they want it to be what I did in my PhD thesis or PhD work. Okay, so they said, well, they are sorry. Then I asked, can I recommend some other process? And these are the guys that I don't really talk to in the lab, or they don't really talk to me. But some of those little things has created, some of those little things have created some kind of impression. Okay, if I send messages to them now, or maybe I need something, they respond at the speed of light, because the relationship has been created. So it's very, very important. Also, it's important to understand the context at which people here maybe speak, or the way they communicate generally. My friend, my friend, my friend, we Larry, we came to Nigeria together, and there was a day he was greeting the secretary of his school, and he was like, "Good afternoon, ma," And the next thing was, he saw from his professor that so and so person said you abused, or I can't remember the exact word, that you disrespected. Ma means, it's like calling a person, hey, you're a bull, you're a cattle. It's one of the most derogatory words in China. We greet people ma or sir, but the woman thought it's ma, a cow, a cattle, something like that. And he just have to explain himself. Oh, the professor was like, the man is widely exposed. He lives in the US, and he told him, hey, oh, sorry, ma in Chinese means so. Of course, only ma, but also the tone and the so it these intricacies. It looks as if they are minor, but they are very, very important. Let us take note of some of these things. Context, culture, environment, goes a long way. All right. There's something very important to that I need to mention. Let us always try to show up. Sometimes many of us feel like we are being used. We experience this a lot. They give you new papers, new Nature, Science, or some of the big journals, maybe what's it called, Lancet, and some of these big journals. They download the new publication, get a review paper, or to craft out some new research direction, or improving yourself. Everything depends on perspective.
Yeah.
So please, let us not feel that. Thank you so much. I saw the reminder, Dr. Isi, I saw the reminder. Okay. Now, some of us feel we are being used. Please, let us not think at least we are being paid. But at the same time, let us try to humbly and with wisdom negotiate, so that if they are publishing review paper or whichever that we have made contributions to, let us negotiate for them to insert our names. Okay. We also use that to how to the profile. Dr. Faladay mentioned that earlier, as well. I won't do much on that. Let me another example. Sometimes your research, we are from English-speaking countries, right? Right? I tell you that my current job, my current employment was offered to me from what my professor saw on some co-authorship because I helped my colleagues to write their manuscript. That was what attracted their attention, and that was not even what I did in my PhD work. So Dr. Falade mentioned that, as well. So some of the things are important. It looks as if, it wouldn't allow me to focus on my work, blah, blah, blah. We can spare some time to do those polishing, to help with some of those things, okay? It goes along. We wouldn't know the type of door it will open. Okay, help your friends, help as much as many people that you want, that needs help. Okay, this one is, I need to push. Some people's work are patented without putting their names.
Beneficial to me. The truth is, one of the things my supervisor, my PhD, when I came to China, he told me, learn the culture, pick your PhD, and enjoy the moment. Those are the three things he told me. He said, for the PhD, you might hit a milestone, you might not hit a milestone, or you might win a prize, you might not win a prize. But the reality is that you will finish, because you will finish the PhD, because you came for PhD. But you see, the moment that you would miss and the opportunities you would miss, you won't get them again. And some of the things that Dr. Yomi has said are things that are currently happening in our own labs. And now I'm doing my postdoc. Many of the things about the Guanxi plays out now at the higher level into career. I didn't get my opening in quotes with those high number of papers by the time I was finishing PhD. But the reality of one ecosystem that happens in China is not just about your publication. Your Guanxi plays a role. Who is going to write your reference letter? Who is going to talk about you? Your teachers are going to talk. They can tell you, oh, this person is nice, but just that I couldn't maximize this person's potential. But I know that if you take this person, you can actually get a potential. And, now that I'm on my next job after PhD, some of the achievements I've had goes to this, my new boss. And I'm sure you'll be saying, what transpired between this person and the previous bosses during the PhD? But the reality is, because of the human relationship that we are talking about, so it's bound to happen. But we can't say less of the Guanxi. And so now we're going to open up the floor for discussion.
I will encourage everyone to use AI. Now it is an opportunity for us to accelerate far, far beyond I've been trying to write a program when I was doing my PhD. That was around 2018. The program was so difficult, I didn't know. I tried to search it, all that. Recently, I just remember that, I abandoned this thing there, during my PhD. Let me just try. With one code, with one question simplifier and everything, I screenshot the test file, what I want to do with that test file that I couldn't solve with MATLAB, and I that thing that I wanted exactly, even though I don't need it again, but I did it. So for me, I'm a kind of use AI, make your work faster. What I will normally use 2 weeks, 3 weeks to do before, with AI, under 2 or 3 days, I'm done. But just make sure you manage the time.
I just want to add one more point. Like, I know some of us come to China with just the mindset of just come to master PhD and then you are out of here. There's more to learn from China. There's more opportunities. So we can also take advantage of this opportunity. It's not just about research. Maybe our life is just go to lab, come back to the dorm, lab, come, which is not good enough. So there are so many opportunities to make friends, about business, how to make money, and all of that. So please, we should try to balance it. It's very, very, very important. In all that getting, get money too in China. Thank you.
Jennifer.
Yeah.
Well, in all that get money, that's the truth. Behind the certificates, we don't
Get
use
a
the
certificate,
certificate.
get more money, and get more papers.
Thank you,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.